Good morning, students. Here I am with your next video. Yesterday I had started the first lesson, Salvatore. I had even given a brief summary so that you all could summarize the chapter, and in that brief summary only you all can get an idea or a gist about this particular story. Today I will start the chapter from your books. You can turn to page number 6, which is, if you have your books, you can turn to page number 6, which is on page number 6. So Salvatore by Somerset Maugham. Somerset Maugham is the author, narrator. I. In stories, whenever I is there, whenever it is starting with I, that is the narrator, the person. Now sometimes the narrator could be the author, sometimes the narrator could be someone else. Okay? I is always the narrator. I wonder if I can do it. Now this particular narrator is thinking about something and thinking whether he could do a particular thing. I knew Salvatore first when he was a boy of 15 with a pleasant face. So now he is going back to the life of Salvatore, and he is saying that he has known this particular boy from a young age. From the time Salvatore was a young boy of 15, the narrator has known him. A laughing mouth and a carefree eyes, and he has known him and is saying that was always a carefree, happy-go-lucky boy, always laughing and always smiling. Because these children are brought up in such a way to face life, to face challenges, and to be happy with it. He used to spend the morning lying about the beach with next to nothing on, and his brown body was as thin as a rail. So now author saying that from a young age only, Salvatore always spent most of his time beside the seashore. As I said yesterday, his father was a fisherman. So being a fisherman's life is on the sea, and Salvatore was used to the sea, and most of the time he would be on the beach beside the seashore doing whatever he was there to do. He used to spend most of his morning lying about the beach with the next to nothing, with just a short pant on, and that's how people lie on the beach or play about near the beach. His body was as thin as a rail. That means in his youth, he was an extremely thin boy. His body was next rail, that is the railway line. And you can just imagine the size of his body where the author is comparing it to. He was full of grace. But one thing with Salvatore was, he was full of grace, meaning he was a good boy, had good manners, and was having pleasant ways. He was in and out of the sea all the time, swimming with clumsy, effortless stroke common to the fisher boys. And being a fisherman's son, he was always in the sea, out of the sea, in the sea, out. And from birth only, these children are taught to swim. For them, swimming is nothing. They do it with such calm, with such ease. We may struggle to learn swimming, but it's in them to swim and to use their ways to survive in the sea. Scrambling up the jagged rock on his hard feet, for except on Sundays he never wore shoes. Here we are introduced to Salvatore, and we are showed one particular scene where he is climbing up near the seashore. You see sometimes there are huge boulders, and he would also climb up those boulders, play about there. And being poor, his parents have never given him shoes or even slippers. So he was always barefooted. And being barefoot, climbing those hard stones, climbing those rugged rocks, his feet were hard as rock now. Very tough, very hard. The skin of his soles were now. And another thing that the author tells us, that being poor, his parents hardly could afford good clothes or even slippers or shoes. Only when he was to go to Sunday Mass, that is a special prayer we have on Sundays, then only he was given his slippers or his shoes to use to go to church. He never wore shoes. He would throw himself into the deep water with a cry of delight. And the rest of the week, he would play about near the sea, and he would just spend time, hours and hours and hours, near the sea. He would just jump into the water, swim whenever he liked, came out whenever he liked, and that was Salvatore's life. His father was a fisherman who owned his own little vineyard. Vineyard is like a grove, a garden where grapes grow. If you have seen grapes, they grow on these sticks and on top then they hang. So this is a place, a country where the farmers cultivated grapes. So his father, side by side with fishing, also owned a plot of land, and on the land they had this small type of a vineyard from which they would grow grapes and sell the grapes in the market. That was an added incentive, added income for the family also. So a vineyard, and Salvatore acted as nourishment to his two younger brothers. So here again we are told that Salvatore had two young brothers, younger to him, and whatever Salvatore learned from instinct, from whatever ways, he taught it to his younger brothers. Like he was their guide, he was their angel, he was their protector. Wherever they were, he was there with them. For his parents did not have much time to look after the young ones. He shouted to them to come inshore when they ventured out too far, and made them dress when it was time to climb the boat. So again, being their guide, he would allow them to swim in the seashore, in the sea, and when he felt it was time to come out of the water, he would just give them a shout, call out to them, and very obediently they would listen to him, being a bigger brother, and they would come out. After they would come out, they would climb into the boat, and then they would return home. So ventured out too far and made them dress when it was time to climb the hot, wind-laden hill and the fragile midday meal. And whenever he felt that it was time for them to have their lunch, he would call out and they would come. But boys in those southern parts grew apace, and in a little while he was madly in love with a pretty girl. So here the author is saying now, but boys in these part of the world, in the southern part of the world, we are talking about a country in South America. They grow very fast, they mature very fast. And Salvatore, as time passed, he matured, and as it would be, he fell in love with a girl. Secretly at first, and he was madly in love with this particular girl. Very beautiful, very pretty, an ideal match for him. In love with a pretty girl who lived on the Grand Marina, and she was belonging to a rich family. She lived in this particular place, the Grand Marina. She had eyes like forest pools, very, very attractive eyes, beautiful eyes she had, and held herself like a daughter of the season, and she held herself like an aristocratic, belonging to an aristocratic family. Very, very mature, very, very proud of her ways. They were efficient, but they could not marry till Salvatore had done his military service. Now they got friendly. Both parties, that is the boy side and the girl side, had no objections to their relationship. But as in their country, boys are sent for 3 years compulsory military service, so Salvatore also had to go for his military service. So the condition for the marriage was that first Salvatore should go for his military service, get that out of the way, his 3 years or whatever time he had to give, come back, and then they could happily get married, because then after that he would not be sent and there was no need for him to go on these military services then. Okay, so they wanted to get this cleared with. And when he left the island, which he had never left in his life before, he became a sailor in the navy of King Victor Emmanuel. So when he went to the military service, you are given options to join the army, the air force, the navy. So he opted for joining King Victor Emmanuel's navy, that is the ships. And he lived on this particular small island. He had never in his life left the shores of this island. Now he was out on his own, out on these huge boats, ships, working his life. He kept He wept like a child. When he was leaving home, he did not know what life was going to be, and he was very petrified, very frightened. First of all, he was in love, he was leaving his love behind, leaving his two younger brothers behind, leaving his parents behind, and he really cried like a small child. He cried, he did not want to go. It was hard for one who had never seen less free than the birds to be at the beck and call of others. Now, he, being a free man, was used to living a life of freedom. Here he was going to work to join King Victor Emmanuel's army. Here he would be subjected to orders, having to follow rules and regulations. This he could not adjust to. He was a free bird, but now he felt that his wings would be clipped. It was harder still to live in a battleship with strangers instead of a little white cottage among the vines. It was going to be very, very hard for him to adjust to live on a ship. Living on a ship, sailors have a terrible life. That was his life to be. And he lived on the seashore in the small vineyard, small cottages they had. And he just felt that he could never adjust to such a thing. He was ashore to walk in noisy, friendless cities with streets so crowded that he was frightened to cross. And when he went and joined this army, this navy, he was transported from city to city. And whenever they would stop at a city, he being an uncivilized boy, he being a boy belonging to a very, very backward community, when he reached these big cities, he was just flabbergasted. He was just awestruck at such big cities. Sometimes he got so confused he did not know how to cross roads even, because crossing roads there are certain rules and regulations. He being just like a gawar, not knowing anything, he was really perplexed as what to do, how to survive. Okay, I suppose it had never struck him that Ischia, which he looked at every evening, it was like a fairy island in the sun. And here we get to know the island that he belonged to, Ischia, Ischia. And every time he was homesick, sad or depressed, he would just think of this small island he belonged to, and he would bring back some memories, and he would cheer himself up basically. To see what the weather would be like next day, or Vesuvius barely in the dawn, had nothing to do with him at all. But when he ceased to have them before his eyes, he realized in some dim fashion that they were as much part of him as his hands and his feet. And he tried to connect with all his people, with the island that he belonged to, and he felt and he wanted to feel they were so important to him, as important as a hand. Now our hands are very important, our legs are very important to our body. Without our hand, without our legs, we are nothing, right? So he also felt that without this island in his life, he was nothing, and he was really struggling with his job, struggling to cope, struggling to survive. He was really downtrodden at this particular time. He wrote to okay. So, but if it was hardest of all to be parted from the girl he loved with all the passionate young heart. Now he had just about fallen in love, even got engaged, and now they were separated. So this part was the greatest tragedy that was occurring to him in his life, that he was separated from the girl he loved. He was separated from his world, and he was very disappointed, and this particular separation was hard to cope with. He wrote to her long ill-spelled letters in which he told her how constantly he thought of her, and he would write to her occasionally. Being very less educated, he could hardly write proper letters, and whatever English or whatever language he knew, in grammatically spoiled language, or even bad spelling mistakes, he would write to her. She would understand, and he would write his heart's feelings, and he would try to explain the circumstances he is living in, and all these type of things. He was sent here and there to now from place to place. He had to go from Spezia to Venice, to Bari Island in India, and finally to China. And he was transferred from place to place, and ultimately he reached China. So yesterday I told you in China what happened to him. So I would just stop now, and next time we will carry on from here. So my friends, goodbye, God bless.